Oh, it's funny. I never used that one, bro. But hey, man.
I mean, hey, bro, if you want to date a bunch of Shaniquas, go for it, man.
LaQuisha.
Yeah, like me and Fresh aren't really down with the brown like that.
Man.
We ain't night riders.
Nah,
so
bro, I'm good.
Sometimes if they're Redbone, but like in general, me and Fresh don't dabble in the dark. If you know what I'm saying.
Yep.
Man, real stay safe shit. You already know what's going on. You already know what's up. We got to talk about the Fresh Fit podcast and basically people calling them anti-black. Before we get into that, I'm gonna need y'all to like, comment, subscribe, and let's run the shit. The fuck up. You already know. Let's try to get to 1,000 subscribers by January 13th. You know that's the deal. So let's get into it. Let's go. So earlier this week, I think it was last night, basically the Fresh and Fit podcast, they had Asian Doll, who's a rapper, if you didn't know, King Von's ex. She was basically on their platform and she was supposed to have like a discussion. I forget exactly what the topic was about, but in case you're unfamiliar with Fresh and Fit, but they're basically a podcast that talk about like sort of like men's rights, borderline like just talking about how men and black men and shit like that, and it's about everyone in general, but it's really like concerning like that type of area, sort of like what their background is about. Like, don't get offended in the comments if I'm not completely discussing it right for like what the topics that they kind of discuss, because it's kind of tricky. They talk about a lot of shit, but that's just like a summary sort of like what their whole deal is. So basically they had her on the podcast and they had a moment where her and her friend were actually talking over each other, which if you have a podcast or if you're not familiar, is a thing that kind of ruins the podcast, because when you have two people challenging on a mic at one time, the audio turns out crazy, and then like the shit that you're actually supposed to be discussing is drowned out. It's a major issue on podcasts when they have like 10 people on there. So basically one of the main people on the show, Myron, basically said like, hey man, like you gotta shut up, basically, and then she called him mean, and then he basically tried to kick her off the podcast, and then she eventually left. But in doing so, it sparked a conversation that people feel that they were kind of anti-black, and they sort of treat like women on their podcast, and specifically black women, like pretty fucked up.
Guys, sidebar conversations, please. Right, I've told you this is like, this is like the fifth time I've told you that, right?
Yeah, sixth time.
Like, stop. For real, like, stop.
Hey, mean as fuck.
I give a fuck. Okay, then. So, how you gonna come on somebody's show, not know what go down, and say, oh, you're mean?
It don't matter. I can say what I want.
Okay, well, you can get the fuck off the show, too.
And if you watch like majority of the videos, like, or just sort of the concepts in it, I mean, like, you're not gonna be surprised at this type of behavior. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're on the alpha male type shit is what they try to preach. But that type of shit is borderline like incel shit if you're in that. And in case you didn't know what an incel is, it basically means you hate women. But they came under fire over past comments where they basically said that they don't fuck with black women, and people found that shit racist. So my view on it as a black man, like the way that they came at them is already wrong. But like off rip, if you're saying that you don't like black women in past statements, basically saying you're not down for the brown or a night rider, that's just fucked. And that's like self-hatred. That shit is off rip. That's already something troubling. Not even on some politically correct shit, but it's like black women are like the most like hated on and like just taken advantage of, and just in general, like they have to go through so much shit, especially when a society is like doesn't look at them as the beauty standard really, but steals their fucking looks and attractiveness, their trends and stuff for other races so they look like them. And it's just so crazy. But regardless of that, like you can't be saying statements like that off rip. But we didn't even get into the part that is like what everyone says is offensive, when they say like you're gonna find a whole bunch of Shaniquas and shit like that, when they're like really providing for a racial trope, like stereotype and shit, and letting that shit like be famous. Like people are gonna like look at that aren't black, and they're gonna like think that it's okay to talk like that and it's okay to be like that. And it sounds like a discussion that like two racist like white dudes would say, but like honestly I don't know any white person that is, I mean I'm sure there's some that are like ignorant like that would say that, but I have not met any that would say that type of shit. Like, and I feel like that type of shit is like only something with actual knowledge would say, someone with actual knowledge of like culture and stuff. So that shit is crazy in itself. But they kind of went in depth with that, and they basically said that they don't fuck with black women in saying that. And I feel like that shit is just a fried statement. Like, I don't know why on earth you would say that. Obviously, they're new to podcasting and new to like the internet, really, because they've only been around for like a year or two. But that's just like a crazy statement, because off rip, you're cutting off a major audience in your shit who would be supporting you otherwise. But I mean, like, if you watch the rest of their content, it kind of comes to no surprise. I think their whole thing is about like putting women in their place and shit, but it's like, I feel like people that feel the need to actually talk about it and do it like that are like lame, you feel me? And the way that they like kind of portray like not liking black women is some lame shit. Like, it's not even like, I don't know, they just go by stereotypes and shit, and it's just crazy, man. Like, they really are just like basically trashing their own race, which is kind of like unfortunate. But there's a lot of self-hate in the black community. I don't know if y'all are aware of it, but there's a lot of people that are black and identify as black but don't really like the culture within it, and they call it coonery and shit like that. But it's like, really, like, that shit is the actual coonery. Like, you could have like a preference in people, but I mean, arguably, like, having a preference is kind of racist too. But like, you could have a preference in people, but you don't have to knock down a whole group of people and having a preference, you know? Like, that shit is crazy. I know it's like entertainment, and niggas say wild shit on the internet all the time, like, just for clickbaits and stuff. But it's like, in the end, this isn't going to be good, because the only people that you're going to attract around you are like the DJ academics of the internet. You're never going to get on a bigger level. Like, you're going to get a bigger platform, and you're going to have like a whole bunch of people that can fuck with that, and like people that don't respect women and incels and shit in your audience. But it's like, how are you going to branch out to like a bigger platform like Netflix or like something crazy like a corporation? If you want to be a podcast all day, that's cool, but it's like, how are you going to branch out and do other shit when you're like doing this? You're literally like shooting yourself in the foot, and it's just going to limit the amount of people that watch your shit. It's going to just be a giant sausage fest, you know? Especially with these type of statements, like, you're really just knocking away a whole crowd of people. And I know for a fact, like, no one is gonna really appreciate that, because it's like, the real niggas that realize that that shit is like not right are not gonna fuck with the podcast. Women are not gonna fuck with the podcast. It's literally a select group of people that's gonna only watch that. So I mean, you're just limiting your target audience with that shit. It's like marketing 101 for real. So I mean, it's from the past, and they're digging it up from the past, but I'm sure that their views on shit isn't wrong. And it's not like they're gonna apologize for the statement. I don't think that they would. But it's like, I mean, obviously they haven't been checked on it before, so that's kind of the reason why they probably won't even realize that it's something wrong right now. But if their money starts going down, they might start making apologies. But I wouldn't be surprised, man. And it's just sad, man, like, that they're like this. Hopefully this kind of makes them reflect. But I feel like the whole point of their podcast is to kind of think on their, like, they have such a stubborn way of thinking that I don't think that they're going to change. But if you think that they do, and you think it's just all misunderstanding and shit, let me know in the comments. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, and let's run this shit the fuck up. You already know. Peace.